Welcome to Series 2 of the Waterford Sportsability Podcast, brought to you with the support of Healthy Ireland. My name is Pauline Casey, Sports Inclusion Disability Officer at Waterford Sports Partnership, and I will be joining you over the next 4 weeks as we talk to leisure facilities, national governing bodies and disability clubs and discuss all the opportunities that are available in Waterford for people with a disability. Welcome to Series 2, Episode 3, National Governing Bodies Did You Know? I'm delighted to be joined here this afternoon by Owen Morrissey from Waterford GA, Gary Power from the FAI and Liam O'Donoghue from Tennis Ireland. You're all very welcome this afternoon.
Thanks. Pauline.
I'm going to start with Owen from Waterford GA. Would you just give me a quick background to who you are and what you do?
Yeah, my name is Owen Morrissey. I'm a coaching officer with the Waterford County Board over the last maybe 12 months or so. I suppose Waterford GA's aim in coaching against development is to provide games and opportunities, coaching and development opportunities for child and youth players up to 17, all the way from our entry-level Go games, which is our participation for all stuff for games, cool camps, development squads for elite players, and coach education for up-and-coming coaches.
Great.
Join into different support clubs within the county. So we cover a broad range of Gaelic game activities right throughout the county.
Fabulous, thanks for that, Owen. Gary, I'll just come to yourself there.
Yeah, so Gary Power and I'm the FAI Football Development Officer in Waterford. I'm in the role since 2007, so a good stretch. So I suppose within the role, similar to home, we're involved in a wide range of activities, whether it's your coach education, summer soccer schools, the Football for All programme, which obviously we'll be talking about today, school soccer, girls, you name it really. I suppose we have a wide remit. Social inclusion would be another massive impact, and so we work across a wide sector really of society.
Brilliant, thanks for that, Gary. And Liam, yourself?
Hi guys, so yeah, Liam O'Donoghue. So I'm on the board of Tennis Ireland, but about 5 years ago I started with another group of people a programme to enable people with disabilities to play tennis.
Fabulous.
Because we've found out that if basically people didn't have that access, that 15 to 20% of the population, as you know, with a disability, and it's grown very quickly, and happy to tell you more about it, but we've gone from really nobody with a disability playing to now having 1,200 around the country.
That's a huge increase, isn't it, Liam?
Yeah,
very, very
huge.
quickly.
Yeah.
I suppose I'm going to come to you first, Liam, because you're a little bit different to Gary and to Owen in the sense that you're a volunteer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me how you ended up in that role.
Well, I sometimes life just takes a pattern. So I joined the Leinster Council, and the question of people with disabilities was kind of on the agenda. So I picked it up. I'd done a little bit in Shankill for people with disabilities to play, and went to meet some of the service providers, like Brothers of Charity, St Michael's House, and said, look, your guys, would it be good if they had access to tennis? They kind of said, yeah. We did a few pilots. And it really grew from there. So we now have some development offices around the country. We're in 80 tennis clubs, which is marvellous, but there are 200 tennis clubs. So we're driving on. We won't be satisfied until we're in at least 200 tennis clubs around the country. But it's been a great take-up.
And has that really been in the last kind of 5 years since
Yeah.
you've come into that position? So that's a huge achievement in a very short space of time, considering the last 18 months of that we've been in a pandemic and that as well. So
Yeah.
talk to me about how you achieved that so quickly.
Well, there was a moment at the beginning of it where we had 3 groups from a service called St Michael's House in Dublin, and they'd been running for about 6 months, and we brought them together in Sutton Tennis Club. At the time, actually, Brothers of Charity would have been here already in St Anne's, but we brought them together and they just had a great day. And there's a picture at the end of that where they're having tea and bickies, and there's about 8. They're kids who've just got the buzz of playing tennis. They, as we learned later, they happen to have a disability, but the look on their faces, I still remember it. And we talked about it after and said, listen, this isn't just a pilot, but this is so good, we just have to drive it on. And we've just been driving it on.
Yeah.
And if I thought 5 years ago that we'd have asked 80 tennis clubs, would you like to do this, and they all said yes, and the clubs donate the courts for free on a indefinite basis. The whole thing, I'm sure the lads are the same, the whole thing is not doing something short term. You can't just give people a nice experience for 2 months. So we fund 10 weeks coaching, they get into the club. In some cases, like as you know in Tramore, they're actually from the Brothers of Charity, they've ended up joining the club.
Absolutely.
And that's fabulous, that's a real bonus. But even if they don't join, they now they walk by the tennis club and say, that's my club.
They've become a member. There's that piece of sustainability there, that they're now included not only in the community but in that sports club.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's fabulous.
In Shankill in Dublin, for example, we have 8 members who are blind. And 3 years ago, when the lads joined, it was wow, and now it's normal.
Yeah,
Exactly. And that's what we're about.
So
it's no big deal.
It's become part of the norm, and I suppose that's the change that we want to see happening, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Brilliant, brilliant.
So it has an effect on the tennis community, as we call it, and obviously for the players themselves.
Yeah,
so
no, that sounds great, Liam, and I'm going to come back on some of those points that you made in a couple of minutes as well. So, Owen, I'm going to pop to you. So in relation to GAA, I suppose it's our national sport. Yeah. It probably has the largest population of members within the country. How did you start to become inclusive? And I know there's been a couple of different games and initiatives developed, but can you tell me a little bit about that?
I suppose like it kind of happened in pockets throughout the country and from time to time. And a couple of years ago, then the GAA would have got about having a national inclusion officer and put together a committee to try and look at this area, similar to what Liam would have done within Tennis Ireland, and that's kind of grown to have GAA for All, and that now was the mainstream programme that is out there for children of all abilities to participate in Gaelic games. I suppose the big challenge we would have is that, you know, we would be very supportive in terms of working in schools. We have a lot of coaches working throughout schools throughout the whole country, and what we try to do, even at a basic level in schools, is that everyone gets the opportunity to play. You know, we don't tell children if they come out in the class that no, you can't play today. Everyone is involved in taking part in hurling or football skills when we go to primary schools and coaching primary schools. The same across all our programs. You know, that's what the big thing that at national level they try to include is that, you know, we don't leave anyone aside at a cool camp. They're included into it.
Yeah.
And we try and find supports for them to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And that's probably our biggest thing we've done over the last while.
And talking of cool camps, and it's just that you're bringing it up, I'm going to come to it now. You ran a really good initiative this year in partnership with ourselves in the Waterford Sports Partnership and with WASA. Would you talk me through a bit of that as well?
Yeah, it just kind of came up. There was only really one county doing something with a summer event. Like we provide places for children of all abilities across the cool camps, but we said we needed to run something maybe for children who maybe parents feel that just weren't able to attend a kind of a cool camp that we happen in general. So we decided to set up a special event and also include their siblings along with them. So it's, instead of being, you know, exclusive to children with additional needs, it is for children with additional needs plus their siblings. So it was trying to normalise it, which was very important. So we held it in Welsh Park, and we had about 40-45 children with additional needs plus their siblings. It's really encouraging because it's probably my favourite part of my role so far since I kind of joined Waterford GAA, because there's real community effort behind it, and Lee might see this when he was involved in Tennis Ireland as well. That parents got involved, you know, we had coaches got involved who may not got involved in other things throughout the year. And, you know, as Liam said, since that happened, you know, we don't want it to be a once-off event. You know, now we're going to plan days throughout the course of the year. So like, as with my Waterford GAA hat on us, you know, we have to try and showcase this to the clubs and show clubs around Waterford that this can be done. You know, and only since that, there's a club called Ballydufflower in Waterford now have decided to set up their own GAA for all day. So like, if we can be the catalyst for other clubs to get that going at a local level, that's what we need to be doing, you know. And so we're going to set up some events right throughout the course of the year, and we'll have one in October now as well, and we'll be supporting yourselves in the Local Sports Partnership and other events as well. But we need to set our own days as well that we can encourage our own clubs to be more inclusive. Absolutely,
and I think that's the thing, when you see how successful that event was, and for these children and their families to come into the main pitch, I suppose, within the county and have that opportunity to partake in that. I think that was a fabulous opportunity for them, and it's definitely something that I think will grow and grow, and the knock-on effect now is that we have a local club looking to do an inclusion day and be more inclusive as well. So it's I suppose to drive that forward and to have maybe 10 local clubs offering this opportunity into the future.
Yeah, I think the big thing is the fear factor. Like, you know, that's the big thing, learnings I got out of the camp we ran in the summer. Like, none of us really had experience of running a camp such as we did, and you know, in fairness to Bernie and Moss and yourselves and people we spoke to were very supportive and said, look, there's no point in being fearful about it, just go for it. And you know, you're not, there's no losings out of it. You know, people are just going to come and enjoy, participate, and again, the parents are absolutely fantastic in terms of stuck around, got involved and helped us out. And you know, I think we don't want this to be a one-off event. We want it to continue on different occasions right throughout the course of the year. And again, as I said at the start, all our programs are moving to be as inclusive as possible that everyone can participate in.
I think that's really good.
Well,
Sorry,
good.
yeah, work away.
So your point about the kind of fear factor, or what we see, I've probably yet to meet somebody who didn't have a bit of a confidence issue about working with, coaching somebody with a disability.
Absolutely, you very much learn on the job, don't you, as you go in.
So there's that. Now it dissolves, and when you're doing the coach ed and stuff, you talk about it. But it's funny the number of times people said, no, I don't think I'm free. And it turned out to be a confidence issue. Well, you just get them on court, they get into the fun of it, and it's fine. But there's a barrier there, actually, that we just need to help people to get over.
I think the rewards the coaches got from everything, it was probably 100 times more than they get in coaching on the Saturday morning academy, you know what I mean? Because they seen the appreciation the parents had, the children had for actually getting the opportunity to play.
Yeah, there's a coach in Clare who came up with the phrase. He was doing a session for me with some local clubs, and I hadn't heard it before. He said, "Do you know what? It's the best coaching hour of my week." And I thought that really nailed it.
And it's really interesting. This is the 3rd episode of the podcast, and all 3 episodes so far have had the same running theme about the enjoyment of the coaches, the volunteers.
Yeah.
That you're actually all getting more out of it than actually the participants themselves. So it's interesting to hear it from lots of different perspectives, which is great. Gary, I'm going to come to you from an FAI point of view, and just to, I suppose, you're one of the lead organisations in terms of disability sport and the number and variety of opportunities that are out there.
Yeah.
Can you talk to me about some of the ones that are maybe more specific to Waterford, really?
Yeah, no problem. Like, I suppose I was lucky, as I said, I started in 2007, but the FAI had a Football for All development officer in place from about 2005. So when we all came in, then there was a huge influx of new development officers around that time. It was one of our core programs really from day one, So I suppose with football, look, it's the world's game as such. It can be played, it's an easy game, and kids of all abilities, it's something that they just can latch on to straight away. So like within Waterford, I suppose, and working with yourselves, of course, over the years with the sports partnership, we've done lots of things, I suppose, because there's so many different areas that you can focus on. Sometimes it's great to bring all the kids together. Like we have our Football for All club, for example, in Park Rangers, where kids go out on a Saturday. They could have all different types of disabilities. They go out for their hour, they have great crack and enjoyment. And sometimes then you might have a little bit more streamlined. And you can just have the list, like amputee football, for example, or blind football. We would have tried some of that over the years. We have Kickstart Recovery on at the moment, which is, for young men and women with mental health issues, for example. So it's such a wide spectrum, I suppose, that's out there, and sometimes it's hard to get across everything. But I just think that, I suppose, the opportunities that are there now compared to even 10 years ago, and the growth in Waterford, where it was getting involved, or the DC Dynamos, or the Little Vikings, or the Dacia Dragons, and all these clubs, they weren't there for 10, they weren't there. And now kids that go through these clubs, hopefully they've had a better opportunity than any kids that would have went before them, I suppose,
Yeah.
So no, it's been really positive. And I think when the organisations pull together and help out each other, which we've all done over the years, whether it's the FEI, GAA, tennis, rugby, sports partnership, we all end up organising, we all come in and we give a hand, and there's never any issue when we all get on just and do the best we can for the kids.
Absolutely. And I can kind of see the trend changing in that. I think people are seeing the importance of working with a partner now going forward. Yeah. So we're all trying to achieve the same thing. So working collectively is actually more beneficial for everybody.
Oh, absolutely. You need it because, for those kids, that hour or 2 hours that they get, I find it's so precious to them. Where for kids that are involved in mainstream sport, they can jump around, they have lots of opportunities and choices. But when you do that session with that kid for the hour, that might be just their hour that they get in sport, and it's unbelievable for them. I never see parents as thankful. I never see kids as happy. It's a great thing to be involved with. Absolutely.
And I suppose we always talk about children when we're talking to the clubs and to the organisations, but I think it's important to mention adults here as well, and the number of opportunities that are available for adults with a disability.
Yeah.
Can I throw that across to yourself, Lee, from a tennis hurling point of view, and the types of programmes that you do that cater for adults?
Yeah, so actually probably quite a lot of our participants would be adults, and just yesterday I was in Wexford with the National Council for the Blind. So one of the, like blind football, there's a form of tennis which is blind tennis, and it's played with a ball, and funnily enough That's the
Sounds
noise
good.
that the ball makes.
Very good.
So if you imagine, if the listeners are, if you close your eyes and imagine you have a tennis racket in your hand, so that's the clue that you get about where the ball is and when it bounces. We had so the NCB, we're starting a group in Musselare, and one of the things I hope to talk with you about is starting a group in Waterford.
Brilliant.
But so as a lead up to our wrestler group, I was with the NCBI in their centre in Wexford, and we went in yesterday with Emile, who's going to coach, and there were 9 of their service users there. The oldest lady was proudly telling me she was 72. And they were a group that had been in there. They'd ranged probably from about 40 up to our 72-year-old. So it's a very, as we all know, folks get fun no matter what their level of ability is. So we developed a new game, I was telling you, called tennis on a table, because some of the guys couldn't stand up. So we normally work with sound, and you roll it on the floor. Instead of that, we roll it on the table. So we have that.
Brilliant.
So it's very much open to all ages. Yeah.
Sounds great. No, that's brilliant, and to be able to adapt that as well. I know from a GA point of view, wheelchair hurling as well is predominantly maybe adults as opposed to children as well.
Yeah, it would be. I suppose I was about to mention. I suppose wheelchair hurling would be our flagship program for adults with physical disabilities, and I suppose to go back on the point that look, the GA are probably, even though we're doing it the last 4 or 5 years, we've always felt we've been inclusive, but we're probably catching up in terms of trying to adapt our games to suit people with additional needs, more so. We also have a game that's suitable for adults, which is a rounders based game, which is fun and run, which is a rounders based game, and the ball is on a stick, and it's much easier to strike, and everyone participates in it with doing physical activities. We have activities for people with wheelchairs to do as well, part of the fun and run game. I think there is definitely an opportunity within the GA to be a bit more inventive in terms of maybe Liam has the ball there, maybe with noise and sound in it. Could we come up with a game maybe for Gaelic football to work with, because probably Gaelic football would be probably the more widely played game around the country, and to get a better spread of inclusivity, I suppose, is that it's a much easier entry level game for anybody to play. You know what I mean? So we would think probably there could be an opportunity in Gaelic football to do something maybe.
Absolutely.
Over the course of the
Yeah,
next few years.
and I suppose that it's nice to see the change happening, although there mightn't be as many opportunities as we would like. It's nice to see the leading organisations putting these new programs in place and starting to get more innovative, and I suppose seeing the importance of including people with a disability in their clubs and in their sport as well, and to make sure everyone is part of it.
Yeah, well, I know the GA now are launching in September as part of the Inclusion Month as well. We're having a National Inclusion Day and a National Inclusion Fitness Day that every club in the country has been encouraged to organise a day or an hour or two within the club for children with additional needs.
One of the things we've learned is, because we started off, as I described it, with some players with a learning disability, or an intellectual disability it's called, but it's just grown from there. So like our latest group just before COVID was a dementia from a dementia care service, so St. Joseph's. There are people who've had, so unlike the guys, I should recognise the FAI really have been the leader in this, and Oisin, who was that development officer, was a huge help to us for ideas. But we now have players who've had an acquired brain injury. We've people with cerebral palsy, we've wheelchair tennis, we've some mental health, as well as the blind tennis, etc. So it's this point that it's simple enough actually, because the result, because we see the smiles that you see, and if you can bring those smiles into as many lives as you can,
Absolutely.
that's what it's about.
Yeah, and I think so, and I think we can see that change happening. I suppose it's coming back to the simple thing of more volunteers, more coaches, and trying to get more people involved. I think there was something very positive happened within the FEI, Gary, in terms of more development officers. If you want to give us a little bit of background on that.
Yeah, so we've gone through a bit of a restructure there over the last couple of years, and obviously there's a lot of negative stuff people will see in the papers, but the stuff that happens actually on the ground is very, very positive and always has been. But I think the restructure will help us big time now that we're in 8 regions as a team of development officers around the country, and all those regions will eventually have a football for all development officer specific to their region. So our one is appointed already, Brendan Corus, she's from Wexford in the southeast, so it just gives it that little bit more of a focus that we have someone there, because me being a DO, I'm involved. Football for all is part of what I do, but it's not my main focus. It's one of a lot of different focuses, I suppose. But whereas Brendan can literally, he's fully focused on the football for all aspect, which is important, I think, to have, you know.
And I think we can kind of see over the years as well, across all three sports, the number of opportunities has definitely increased. And
absolutely, yeah. I think it's all about, I think, having the pathways then as well, which can be hard sometimes. For example, whether it's blind football or CP. I was just talking there about the amputees. Like, we've an international team playing in the amputee European Championship at the moment. They won 8-0 against Belgium yesterday, you know, which is phenomenal. And for them, that is to wear the green jersey, like that, you can't get better than that, you know. That's the highlight for them. And for a kid to be able to go from a young age, maybe thinking they're different or they don't have chances, they now do, you know, if they can come through the right way and the right pathway, I suppose. And like, sometimes we can offer things in Waterford which is brilliant, and we offer loads now compared to what we used to. Other times for something, maybe they have to do a bit of travelling, whether it's to Cork or whether it's to Dublin, and the commitment of parents to do that, you know, is phenomenal as well, just to give them those opportunities.
And I think you've touched on something there as well, and I suppose it's something that's changing as well, is even, you know, the media coverage that we see and the role models that we see. How important do you think it is across all three sports that if you're advertising your sport, that you're showing that it's inclusive?
Well, yeah, certainly to pick up on the role model point, I think you called it wearing the green jersey. You know? So to take one of the examples, we have our number one wheelchair tennis player, Gareth Green. And Gareth is, we hope, heading for Paris to the Paralympics. So he volunteers actually as a coach to our wheelchair juniors. And that's role model, you know. They happen to have a disability, but they look at how Gareth hits a topspin backhand from his chair and they go, wow, one day I can do that. So if we can, you know, so in terms of the publicity, etc., you know, we're going to put a big fundraising push behind Gareth, for his sake, his own sake, but also if we can get him to the Paralympics, then hey, we're really saying to a whole generation of kids, you know what, you could be at the next one.
It's opening the possibilities, I think, isn't it? And from the GA point of view,
I suppose the challenge that GA have is that, you know, we're not on the international stage compared to tennis and compared to FEI, which is, you know, the big challenge we'd have. You know, we would have a big push in terms of, like, you know, inclusion is also partly about diversity as well, and maybe people from ethnic minorities as well, and also maybe people, you know, from different demographic backgrounds. So, like, that's a big push that GA have done recently. A lot more, we see a lot more players participating in our games from those type of backgrounds, and the GA have tried to, I suppose, publicise that fact that's happening. You know, I suppose unfortunately at the moment, you know, we don't have maybe, you know, children or adults participating in Crow Park on our final day, maybe with intellectual disabilities, things like that, but that would be the dream, I think. That would be something that would happen. It would be great to happen.
And I think that's the focus. I think when you see the fact that you've only kind of started to kind of tap into the inclusion side of things over 4 or 5 years, it's to see like what the GA's plan is in 10 years time, in 15 years time, and so on, and where do they see that dream going. And maybe it is that there's teams competing in Crow Park on the main stage.
Gary made a great point there, like, you know what I mean, in terms of, they looked at their structure in terms of restructuring, and, you know, we would have different structures through different counties, which is a kind of a good and bad thing in a way, you know what I mean. There's some counties with a lot of development officers, and some would have you know, county games managers, and Waterford would have 3 to 4 full-time staff, and you know what I mean, all doing exceptional work, but again, they're spread across all different clubs or different projects. But our only focal point for someone with support, maybe in a full-time capacity, would be, say, one person in Crow Park who's doing a fantastic job, but, you know, it can be difficult to spread the load a bit. So that's something maybe the GA could look at in terms of, you know, can we spread that out a bit more.
Yeah, and I think we're probably really lucky in Waterford, particularly within the sports partnership, that we have the likes of all of you here around the table, that we actually rely heavily on to be able to offer these opportunities to people of Waterford. And I suppose this is an opportunity for us to acknowledge the great work and the partnership that we do together, and without the support of all of you, these opportunities wouldn't happen. But I think we're all on the same page that there's great opportunities, but we need more.
Absolutely, you know, absolutely. And it's the promotion of it, as you said, it's the highlighting of it, because you might still have parents coming on and they're still not sure how their kid gets involved in something. You're almost feeling like, how do you not know now? But they don't, you know. And it's about like these things, like the podcast or the bit of media promotion, or seeing someone doing well in the sport. It's what it's all about, you know, and showing them that there is opportunities there for their kids, you know. And sometimes it might be within the mainstream setting, sometimes it might have to be in their own setting. There's still the opportunities there for them to take part in sport, you know.
Absolutely. And like, I suppose the big word COVID has had a huge impact on sports clubs across the country and participation. But in terms of our disability sport, have you seen any negative impacts that has really had on it?
Well, I mean, the negative, like all athletes, is people losing their fitness and coming back. But we brought quite a lot of Enjoy Tennis, as we call it, online. So you can imagine, and it would be hard to, blind tennis players doing a coaching session online.
I'd like to see that myself, Liam.
Yeah. And have a great crack. We had a couple of new blind players actually who joined online and have now turned up in various clubs to
Brilliant.
play. So I think and actually we found that the online is something we're going to keep.
Okay, so it actually turned out to be a positive, and some other clubs actually had a similar experience. So I think there's a mixed response on how it affected different people. Gary, from a FAI point of view?
Yeah, I'd say, look, it was a big negative for us, definitely, because when some sports were allowed back, and now there's pods and restrictions and that, probably the football for all this bit were probably the last to come back, because you'll have parents a bit nervous. There was the whole vaccinations, this, that, and health reasons why they couldn't get back. So that was a huge impact. A lot of clubs, I mean, we were talking to some of the clubs there, they would have had massive numbers, whether it's Waza or Dacia Dragons or any of them. They're not sure what their numbers are going to be now, and they're trying to get back and get going again. So I think that's been a massive challenge. The other big one then would be the indoor, I suppose, because we're still not 100% sure what we can and can't do as of yet indoor. And a lot of like the older adults, whether we were doing walking football or working with the older people, they like being indoor, they don't like being out in the rain and stuff. So that's another challenge yet that we still need to kind of overcome again.
They're probably the groups that are probably the most vulnerable and the ones that need it the most, particularly when we even look at the special schools and the types of initiatives that we run with them, and they're craving activity and they need the activity. And
it is, but it's all about, like, we still don't, like before you could get 3 or 4 schools together, big numbers, run a blitz, you know, and you're still waiting on, can we do this? We're not sure. What can we do? Can we just do a single kind of schools might not want to travel out anymore. We might have to go in there and do one session with one class rather than what we used to do. So I think things will change, but you know, hopefully we can get back to some kind of normality, because things were going very well.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things we have done a little bit of, but never with either the FAI or the GAA yet, is that particularly with our adults, a lot of them are coming to sport for the first time. Okay, but when the sport thing activates in their head, then it's there. Do you know what I mean? So they've gone on. Some of them have gone on to parkrun.
Brilliant.
And we did a bit with, you know, the Sailing Association have Sailability, and the Bowls Association. But actually with you guys as well, you know, there's no reason why we couldn't do a kind of, look, you found tennis. Now here's a session with the local with Valeview at Shankill that has an inclusive thing. Or the local, you know, Coola in Dublin has really pushed the boundaries on it. But that kind of saying, right, you've started, now here's a couple of other places you might go.
It's the introduction, I suppose, to physical activity, and it's the sustainability in it as well. And I think that's the thing about it.
Yeah, I suppose on this point there is a good idea, like, you know, could we look at opportunities for maybe multi-sport activities?
Yeah, exactly.
Year, you know, like, I know that's probably happened in the past and things have happened, but why can't you have maybe, you know, a couple of adults maybe come and try days, and maybe a couple of youth come and try days, and maybe have a soccer station, a tennis station, a J station, another station, and have the information for them when they're there to.
Absolutely, and I suppose that was traditionally the point of our Sportsability event that would have always taken place. I know Liam and Gary were both present at them in the past as well, but unfortunately with our restrictions we can't do it, so we've gone to the Sportsability month, which is probably the best that we can do for now. But I suppose the dream for 2022 would be to have our big event and bring everyone in and have all the clubs there as well, and really showcase what is available in Waterford, because I think it has increased a lot over the number of years. I think it's only going to get bigger and bigger in that as well, and I think there's a lot of work to be done by myself and in partnership with all of you around the table as well. So I just want to say thank you very much for coming today. It's been great to have you here with us and to share that information with everybody.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks,
Pauline.
Cheers.